Hey guys, this is my video on engine possibilities. You know, there's a plethora of different engines you could put in these things. From the factory, they came with the 302, E7 heads. Um, you know, in 87 to 93, they produced the most horsepower for the 5.0 in the 302 cubic inch form. The 93 Cobra, we all know, had the GT40 heads. Made a little bit more power, and it was, you know, that little bit of power made the car feel just peppier. You know, still had, I think they had 308 gears. You know, these things just felt like a dog with the 273s from the factory made into this engine. A nice thing done. Everybody does it. I've said this before. A gear swap. My brother runs 373s, stock E7 heads. No cam, and it's a fun car in his notchback. And the GT being heavier with the stock engine, you know, it needs some more power for such a car that, you know, at 3,000 pounds, about 3,100 actually, you know, it needs more. And I think one of the downfalls that we all experience is, you know, with the 307, with the 302, the E7 heads, you know, even with the cam and headers and, you know, you name it, maybe you can break 230, you know. I mean, it get a lot of port work. I've seen people, some, very few in the 240s at the wheel. I went with an old school trick that everybody knows about, the GT40p heads. I ended up getting a set for $300 with the intake manifold as well. Had the heads brought to a machine shop. Already had springs, because with the GT40p heads, you have to get aftermarket springs. Good thing is Trickflow has a spring kit for the P heads. Absolutely recommended, especially if you're going to go with the cam. Also with the Trickflow Stage 1 cam. DSS pistons, with their piston kit, it's forged pistons. If I wanted to add nitrous later on, I could. Even if I want to add a blower, chrome moly rings, you know, the connected rod bolts, I ended up using ARP. Had the crank resurfaced, 0.10. On the dyno, I already have a dyno vid out, 277 wheel horsepower, 324 foot-pounds of torque. You know, a lot of guys are gonna laugh at that. You know, in today's standard, it's you know, you're talking the EcoBoost, where the tune is making that already, and I completely understand. You know, with the LS's, a 5.3 LS is making that stock what I'm pushing out at 277, 324. But still, an LS, you know, an LS1, the 5.3 with a little bit of work, you know, they're great engines. You know, you could put them in anything. They put them in the G bodies and they're fantastic. You know, just with even that power. And I thought that to myself, you know, I just couldn't LS swap this. I couldn't do it. Not to say that the LS is a fantastic engine, but I would put one in an IROC all day long over a Foxbody. So for me, budget-wise, I went that route, and I thought it was, you know, within the budget, bringing it to machine shop, having them do all the work. They even assembled it for me. I supplied all the parts, but for their labor and everything they did, hot tanked it, decked the heads, everything was ported, bought over 2 with 306, bought over 30 over. You know, they did all the work. They put the Trickflow staging cam, hydraulic lifters. I went through the entire engine. So, cost me, for the machine shop to do all the machine work and assemble the engine for me, $1,300. Later on, I got the Courage. I had a Miata that I ended up doing a 1.8 swap, and I assembled the head and did a head gasket myself. And the way these are, I wish I would have had the Courage back then, but I didn't. That's one thing I wish I could have done with it, but I had everything done for me in that context, and I put the engine back in with a good friend of mine. But with 355 gears, I want to say, the car with 355 gears, guys, 277, 324 torque, it's a great car. It stays in boil. I went through 2 transmissions. I'm on my 3rd. it's not going to break. I now have an Astro T5 gear set that was installed by my friend Chris, and you can actually drive the car the way it's meant to be driven. And the T5's third gear, you know, for some reason, it's just, you know, a lot of us have gone through these transmission, and luckily we can get used ones for pretty cheap, but ultimately, I didn't want to have to worry anymore, you know, after going through 2 transmissions. The third time, went with the Astro T5 gear set, and I'm going to tell you right now, there's no grinding. It's a little bit of humming because they're loud because of the size of the gear stack. But I'm telling you right now, I can absolutely just floor it every gear, you know, and it just bangs in perfectly. Feels great with the T5. And I just think as a setup, you know, you really have to figure out what your budget is, because there's people here who have the budget to do a Coyote swap. But shout out to Foxcast Media. They are phenomenal. Caleb did a great job of explaining the cost. I've already did, prior to him doing that, I did the cost myself. I was thinking about going that route with an F-150 Coyote. But the transmission, you know, with the high RPMs, the Astro T5 gear set, you know, I don't know how it would do, you know, spinning at 7,000 RPM. So you're going to have to do a TKO or the Tremec T56. Soup to nuts. This guy did it. Caleb did it. And this team did it. You're talking $20,000. And this is, he has a beautiful LX 5.0. That is, guys, way out of my budget. And if you have that kind of money, listen, I completely understand why you would go at Coyote. I did dynoing of what, 420 at the wheels, untouched, you know, a dyno tune, some headers, you know, you're talking unopened, you know, in this car, in this Foxbody, which is fantastic. But when you're making that kind of power, about 420, you know, suspension wise, you know, you're really gonna have to, depends on if you want to drag it, you can do a drag setup, and some people will do that. But if you want a nice Torah, 400 wheel horsepower, I feel, in a Foxbody, you know, your suspension, you know, you need the torque arm, you know, you're going to go with a full maximum motorsports, and that's the way the car will be done right. Budget, way out of my budget again. So I've already had a suspension and brakes that I already talked about, but I want to give you other options. You know, if you're a young guy or you're just into this and you want to figure out how do I want to make my Fox better. You know, the problem with the P's now, Ford Racing no longer makes those headers. You can only get those headers through Mac. They're about $400. That's what's going to cost you just for the headers alone. You're going to have to send them to a machine shop, guys. You're getting them off the Explorers or the Mountaineers. You're looking at about $400 to $500 worth of machine work. So let's say you pick up the heads for $300. You're going to be $1,000 in, you know, just with the head work and the cost of the heads. For, you know, if you're lucky, I dynoed well. I was happy, and I also think in conjunction with the 306 and the pistons. So I had a little bit more. I was expecting around 250, 260 at most. Almost hit 280. I love it, guys. It's a fun car. Again, I am not going to win any races. I'm not looking to track this car or bring it to a drag strip. I'm just looking to enjoy, as a Sunday driver, taking it out with my son or my daughters. Wife doesn't particularly love it, hence why I love Miatas as well. She can't stand the Foxbody. For her, she doesn't like her head getting thrown in the seat. And with that measly horsepower, for today's standards, you still have a good time. Just think again. Other option is GT40X heads, aluminum. You can use whatever headers you want. That's a great plus with the GT40X heads. Twisted wedge heads, fantastic. That top end kit, I think it's about $2,200. Great setup. I mean, I've seen them pushing around 320, 330 at the wheels. I know if I went with that head swap, I'd gain quite a bit over what I have now. But I am very happy for what it is. On the highway with the Astro T5 transmission in the 355. I mean, I'm in third all day around country back roads, which is nice. I don't have to shift to fourth. I'm in third, winding third out to about 80 or 90. And even at 70 miles an hour in third gear, I'm only tacking around 3,000 RPMs. So for me, I enjoy that kind of driving. I like to be in Boyle, and it's a good time. You know, LS swap is much cheaper to do. It really is. You know, K member, I mean, you can get a 5.3 from anything. You know, that's, if you decide to go out of the route, I have respect for you. It's a great car. It's just something I couldn't do. Coyote swap again, great. But again, budget-wise, if you want to build a good Coyote, you know, you're not just going all engine. You're going suspension, brakes. You're going balls to the walls. So we all know the cost of these are getting much more. So within your budget, you also have to think about your bottom end. The good thing is, you know, 87 to 92, that 302 I'm much more familiar with. Didn't own a 4i, but it's fully forged. You know, in the 93, they had the hyperneurotic pistons. As you know, they weren't forged. So some people, they boosted them. They haven't had too much problems as long as they're not going, you know, over 400 horsepower. People have safely boosted them. I didn't want a supercharger. After I installed this engine, I was thinking about doing it. But for my driving, for what I do, the back end's already, you know, it's squirrely already. And if I throw that in, especially on the country backwards, which I enjoy doing that kind of driving, and getting on the highway, I just think with a blower around 400 for me, I don't have a full suspension like a Maximum Motorsports. I wish I did, but budget-wise, that's right. I can't do that. So when building this car, think about what you want. I've seen these break into the 12s with my setup, some, you know, drag suspension, some slicks. You know, if that's what you do and that's your cup of tea, you know, it's not bad. I mean, or if you enjoy doing what I do, it's a great setup. And I'm going to tell you, you just have to, again, I'm going to say it again, is just think about what you want to build, what makes you happy. So again, I hope I helped you guys out again, just giving you some ideas. Look, check out Foxcast Media for the Coyote swap. If that's the route you want to go, they documented everything. I mean, you can't get better than that. And mine, for me, I just wanted to stick with the, you know, the good old push rod. You know, pistons wise, you have a plethora of choices. There's so many things you can do, but you're still going to look at a build, parts and machine work. You're looking at, you know, $3,000 to $4,000 easily. And I was comfortable with that. So again, I hope you found this video informative, man. I hope you found my dyno informative. And again, you know, best of luck with your builds in the way you want to build it. So take care, guys.